So I don't usually read the AmericanThinker.com, but here we have a pretty good article by Chris Talgo talking about the difference between shareholder capitalism and stakeholder capitalism. Well, shareholder capitalism is pretty straightforward. Anybody who owns the company. Like if you invest money via buying the shares, or you're actually like an investor, the CEO or whatever. Or wait. Yeah, I guess the CEO too. People who actually own the company. I guess the CEO doesn't have to own the company. It could just be a worker, a regular worker. Versus the new buzzword, which is stakeholder capitalism. Well, who are the stakeholders? The workers, maybe people living, well, I guess the customers, people that are affected by this business, maybe the people that live around this business, people that are in the same country. I mean, it's very people who are affected by pollution of this business, people who maybe live off the taxes that are being paid by the I don't know. I mean, this is it's a very vague concept, but this stakeholder term has been getting thrown around lately, and by I think it was John Mackey. He wrote a book about that. The Whole Foods CEO. And while I do believe that, I mean, yes, like for business, it's one of the most important things is to make a profit. But just the pursuit of blind profits at the expense of profits in the future. Like, for example, let's say you want to stay in business for a long time. Well, you can make some extra profits now by ripping people off and delivering a bad service, but then later on, that's going to cause you to lose business. So I believe everything is shareholder capitalism anyway. Or let's say your business has like subcontractors or other companies that work for you. Well, you can negotiate them because you're buying power or whatever, and squeeze every last penny of them to where they're like barely profitable or unprofitable. But you don't want to do that because in the long term you want them to make a profit too, because we want them to stick around, and you want them to stick around for a selfish reason because you want to use their services, right? So I think people, just because people are taking that Milton Friedman quote about, business, here it is. As Milton Friedman said nearly 50 years ago, there is obviously one social responsibility of business: to use its resources and engage in activities designed to increase its profits so long as it stays within the rules of the game, which is to say, engages in open and free competition without deception, fraud. But at the same time, what he's leaving out here is obviously, or to maximize your profit, you have to be a pillar in the community almost. If you engage in, the same type of business over and over and over again with the same clients, you have to be a good steward of your reputation, and that would in the future create more profits. But now I think maybe it's one of those things where they want, society or certain like government or socialist forces, they don't want to push, claim outright socialism because that has like a bad tinge to it. So now they might go for the route of, well, we like capitalism. We're not socialists. We like capitalism, but we like stakeholder capitalism. And, the stakeholders are the people in your community. So, you got to do X, Y, and Z. That's like not profitable for the company, right? So, but let's get into the article here. This is commonly called stakeholder capitalism, is one of the primary reasons that the United States has become the most prosperous nation in the world, despite the fact that Americans embrace shareholder capitalism. Since its inception led to the beginning of the most dynamic and innovative economy ever, many elites believe it's time to replace shareholder capitalism with what they deem stakeholder capitalism. And I wonder who is talking about the quote-unquote elites here. Are you talking about the top CEOs of the biggest businesses? Believe it or not, the notion of stakeholder capitalism is not a novel concept. Many schools trace their origins to progressive era heyday of the early 20th century, where so-called experts sought to re-engineer society based on their assumptions of how things should be done. Now, the biggest issue here is a business. Why is a business efficient? More efficient than socialism or than like government programs? Well, because they have a profit and loss. They can at the very essence of it, they can calculate their input costs and calculate the profit and see if they're actually producing, if they're losing money or actually producing a public good here. If they're profitable, that means they're not wasting resources if they're profitable. But here, if you go for the shareholder thing, then you can't calculate that because they're not the customer. Let's say you can improve the store, but then you'd have to invest more money. Well, and raise prices. You raise the prices, and then you calculate that if you were to raise the prices, well, your customers would rather have the worse store but lower prices, or the opposite, or whatever. But with the stakeholder stuff, you're back to socialism. It's impossible to calculate this. Like, the stakeholders don't have any inputs. So if you're doing the stakeholder capitalism and your business is spending a lot of money on so-called public goods, well, how do you know you're even if you want it, even if you feel like you should do that and you're virtuous, how do you know that you're getting your bang for your buck or you're not wasting money? For every dollar you spend on the stakeholder capitalism, maybe you get 50 or 25 cents in return. So the more you do it, the more money you lose, the more unprofitable you are. And then that money could be better spent elsewhere. Because obviously money is not infinite. For whatever reason, stakeholder capitalism was not replaced with stakeholder capitalism during the 20th century. However, vast inroads were definitely made. Fast forward to 2022, stakeholder capitalism is being resurrected by a new group of global elites who wish to use it for their gain. Unlike during the progressive era, when these corporations were wary of stakeholder capitalism, now embrace it fully. Why? In short, stakeholder capitalism allows corporations to game the market in their favor. If shareholder capitalism is predicated on companies meeting their desires of individuals in the open market, stakeholder capitalism is predicated on elites demanding what is best for individuals. Market be damned. Of course, it's a closed-loop system is a boon for CEOs, elites, those who have access to the levers of power. However, it also undermines the will of the vast majority of Americans. Yeah, I wish they would give an example of this. Well, I mean, to my intuition, this sounds about right, but just give me an example here, because I'm pretty sure big corporations, yeah, they do have control of the government. They do pull the levers. They definitely game the system in their favor. Like, no government regulations ever passed that says, oh, business XYZ is going to benefit from this. No, the regulations to stifle competition, they're always passed with, well, to protect the consumer's interest. Everything goes that way. Perhaps this is why the American people overwhelmingly do not support stakeholder capitalism. According to a new poll conducted by Rasmussen Reports, the Heartland Institute, 45% of likely voters, a solid plurality, believe the highest priority of a business in the United States to be providing individual consumers with high-quality products and services at the lowest prices. Okay, I'm on board with that. On the same token, 14% said earning profit to benefit shareholders or owners. On the other hand, only 1% likely voters using business resources to pursue social justice causes. But I think social justice is such a... These words are so tainted now with like pink-haired feminist progressives or whatever, you know what I mean? Or like BLM, that when you put social justice, that's almost like they're saying like, oh, we should be donating to the BLM organization or something like that. I think if they were to, obviously, if they were to word this poll question a different way, it wouldn't be 1%. It would be probably maybe like 20 or 30% if you were to word it like, businesses not only should focus on profits, but should focus on the community around them. That sounds a lot more better, benign, and you get a lot, although it could be the same thing. Should this alarm global elites who are doing full throttle with their plans to remake the world economy via stakeholder capitalism? Not a single example. Just give me who's doing the stakeholder capitalism. Whole Foods, Pepsi. Just give me an example. Over the past few years, global institutions such as the World Economic Forum and International Monetary Fund have put their eggs in the stakeholder capitalism basket. Oh yeah, the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab here. A joint venture with governments and private businesses. I mean, I can see a lot of people are really disturbed by this because it does reek a little bit of fascism here. Despite their claims that stakeholder capitalism will provide a more inclusive, sustainable, resilient global economy, the opposite is true. What these elites fail to mention is that American people apparently understand that concentration of economic social power in the hands of a small group of elites is a very bad idea. Now the article goes on like this. The one and only way to ensure that humans can thrive to their best of their abilities to create a free market and fair market, which is the invisible hand guides the direction of the economy. After hundreds of years of astonishing success, we should be celebrating shareholder capitalism for all the remarkable achievements it has helped usher into our lives. More importantly, we should oppose all of those who long to upend shareholder capitalism and replace it with schemes that centralizes decision-making while enhancing their power, prestige, and prosperity. Yeah, my beef with stakeholder capitalism is uncalculatable. You can't calculate it in either, who are the stakeholders and how much weight, how much of the profit should be given to them, and how much benefit do they get from it. I mean, that's the role of government, and you can see why the government fails and is so inefficient.